caught up with Lori here, who's producer on Allods Online, a game that's already out, and we're doing a lot of content or coverage on games that aren't out, but this game is live. And so we thought we'd just ask what's going on right now with the game and what's up next.
Well, we just released an update to Allods Online last week in English, French, and German. That was pretty huge. We added in a new dungeon-based companion system called the Mercenaries, which allows players to hire NPCs to help them along in any of their dungeons or allods, and they can do that from level 8 and above. And that's pretty exciting. The players are pretty excited about that. And we also finally finished the Path of Greatness. Well, finished. We finally reached an important milestone in the Path of Greatness quest, where players actually have their physical allod built in space now, and they can put their feet on the ground and touch the ground and decide whether it's going to be a winter or a desert or a jungle. And it actually starts generating resources for them as soon as it's finished being built. So it's a pretty significant update overall.
What's the reaction been like?
So far, the reaction has been really, really positive. The new players especially really appreciate the mercenary system. A lot of our players, as they're leveling up, prefer to either solo a lot of the content, or they prefer to play with one or two close friends. So it's really important, I think, to make sure that they don't get hindered at the point where they need to find a group to complete their quests. And the mercenary system just allows them to keep playing without interruption and play how they want to play. And it doesn't interfere with the social aspect, because there's always those fights that are too complicated for just simple AI, and there's always going to be a preference for real players.
So was that a response to a need that you saw among the player base to have this system in?
It was just basically a cutting-edge system that it's been implemented in other games, and we saw that it was something that could really work in the Allods Online universe, because there are so many instances and dungeons, especially with the astral system, with the different layers of astral and the different sort of instances that exist on the Allods themselves. So being able to give the player the option to fill in the hole in the party or just keep adventuring on their own is definitely really important, because there's no point in forcing a player to do something that they don't want to do. We should let them play how they want to play and when they want to play.
So speaking of the sort of the greater plan for Allods Online, where are we heading in the future, and sort of what's next? What's coming up next?
Well, we do have another expansion planned for this year. We're hoping to release sometime in the early winter, and we're very excited about this one. It is a very big expansion. We're going to be increasing the level cap from 51 to 55. We have a new raid being added called Tep's Pyramid that is very different from how players are used to experiencing their raids. We have a complete revamp of the Astral Confrontation system, which includes the addition of a pet system for all classes and all races, which I think our players will really, really enjoy. Complete revamp of the profession system, a brand new vehicle-based PvE event, so players will actually get to control tanks and work together to try and take down this one sort of giant boss as they're controlling these tanks and fighting with these vehicles. And we're also adding, obviously, lots of new content to support the 4 new levels. So there's a giant zone. It's one of the biggest zones that we have in Allods Online that is kind of like a Bermuda Triangle or a paradise lost in time existing in the astral. And it's meant to be a sort of open world PvP zone for endgame. So there's lots of events scheduled that will force Empire and League to come together and butt heads and face each other, and it's kind of the first time that endgamers have really had this open world experience. It's always been skirmishes, battlegrounds, and like arenas, so should be very interesting.
Very interesting to see how that plays out. But I think you teased us a little bit there, because you mentioned a new raid and you said that it would be gonna be different, but you didn't say how. Are you still keeping that secret?
No, we can definitely talk about that. Basically, one of the things that you'll notice is that our previous raids have been very, very open, and there's been lots of sort of wandering mobs and trash mobs and ads. And some of the things that the developers have done is actually made the space smaller so that there's fewer ads. There's actually just really the staging area and the boss room, and the actual main focus for the raiders is the boss encounter, because the developers figure the ads and the trash aren't what raiders enjoy. It's the boss fight. And the fights are very dynamic. They force the players to react in ways that require a lot of coordination and cooperation. There's a lot of movement calls, there's a lot of rotations, there's a lot of cycles that happen with the boss's abilities. So it just requires the raid to be really, really well coordinated, and there's probably going to be several failed attempts before they succeed.
Sounds terrific, and it's sort of, you're not sort of like prolonging that sort of tread towards that inevitable climax, but you're actually bringing the players what they want straight away.
Exactly. The devs feel like there's no point in extending gameplay artificially, that gameplay should be immediately enjoyable. So this is what they're trying to implement with this new raid, and it looks absolutely stunning. It's done based on the style of Zem technology, which is the people that the Arisen come from. And so it's very Egyptian based. You see lots of greens and golds and purples, and there's lots of friezes carved into the walls, and the detail on it is just stunning.
Right, I understand you're not talking about the future beyond that, but do you have any promise for players who are invested in Allods Online for the future?
Well, one thing I can say that is coming up in the future really, really soon is that we're going to launch a very comprehensive Refer a Friend program really in the next couple of weeks. So they should definitely keep an eye on that and look for opportunities to get some pretty exclusive rewards for inviting their friends.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. It's nice to see you.